Welcome to the Deal Calendar. I'm Kathleen Flynn, along with Suzanne Stevens. This is our weekly look at the top stories that we're covering at the deal, and also at some of the events coming up in the next few days that will affect deal making. Well, since our last installment, a huge deal has come down, Verizon buying Alltel for $28.1 billion.
Sure, and we'll certainly be following that in the newsroom all week. Our reporters will be on that. We'll also be looking at airline industries. There's a lot happening there, both in the U.S. and abroad. But we want to focus in on a couple of big dates coming up next week that you and I have been following. And one I know that you've been watching closely is CBS's acquisition of CNET. So what's happening next week?
Well, on Monday, June 9th, the HSR waiting period expires. I think this is a really interesting deal. I mean, CNET's a company I've followed for a long time. They've done a great job of really owning the space of high-tech product reviews, but they haven't always gotten great shareholder value. For example, they had an acquisition of WebShots for $70 million and then sold it a couple years later for $40 million at a loss. They also came late to the party to blogging. So they've definitely missed the boat a bit. I mean, from my perspective, being bought by CBS might be very good for the CNET shareholders, but I'm curious about your perspective as the corporate deal maker angle.
Right. Well, you know, CBS has been kind of lacking in some areas itself and having a really strong digital platform, and CNET fills that void at least to a degree. So on the surface, that looks good, but I can guarantee you that the deal makers inside CBS have been thinking long and hard about how they would actually integrate CNET should the deal actually go through, because integration is a huge issue, and you can't just buy one company that is a complement, even when it is a complement to your business, and think that once the deal's done, the work is over. So there could be some big integration obstacles that may keep CBS from fully leveraging CNET as they go forward.
And in fact, CBS already did this once before with MarketWatch. You know, bought it and then later sold it.
Right.
So long term, very interesting to see what happens with CNET. Moving on through the week, you've got a couple things going on with Restoration Hardware.
Right. There's two important dates with Restoration Hardware next week. On June 11th, there's a hearing scheduled. Shareholders have sued the board, saying that the board of Restoration has failed in its duty of care to shareholders by accepting a buyout offer. And on June 12th, shareholders are scheduled to vote on that buyout offer. So what happens on June 11th is actually going to affect what happens on June 12th. And the real issue here is that there's a second offer that's been floating out there, a couple of offers that have been bounced around between Catterton Partners-led buyout and Sears Holding Company. So, you know, the shareholders that are not part of that buyout group are interested in hearing what Sears has to say, so we'll have to see how that pans out.
So those are some of the specific dates that we're going to be tracking, but there are also some broader stories, ongoing stories that, of course, we'll be paying attention to. In my beat, the tech beat, of course, the biggest story is Microsoft and Yahoo and whether or not it's going to happen. You know, talks are back on. Susan Decker, the president of Yahoo, is now saying things that make it sound like she's a little bit more amenable to the deal than certainly it sounded before from Jerry Yang. Another thing that's happening on that case that happens later in the summer, but they've moved the Yahoo shareholders meeting now to August 1st, maybe buying a little bit more time against Carl Icahn. So of course, I mean, I have no idea whether or not anything specific will happen this week, but for tech reporters, that is the top story right now.
Sure. Well, and the other side for, you know, the banking folks, the finance group here at the deal, have been following closely the Lehman Brothers, what's been happening there. And the latest news there is that Lehman is trying to raise some capital, about $3 to $4 billion is what we're hearing by around mid-June. And that's on top of about $4 billion that they've already raised. And if they're successful in raising that money, it accomplishes a couple of things. It not only brings in more capital, which is certainly important, I think more significantly, it shows some confidence in Lehman Brothers. And considering what happened to Bear Stearns and the role that confidence has played as that situation has played out, that drama has played out, I think it's important that Lehman shows that people are still confident that it is solvent and that they will be able to survive moving forward.
And before we sign off, we want to talk about Corporate Dealmaker. You guys have a big issue coming up on Monday.
Yeah, we do, and we'll be focusing on valuations. Strategics are in the market now in a much bigger way than they have been in the last couple of years, and we'll take you behind the scenes of some strategics to look at how they value targets and how they do it successfully and are able to leverage those going forward.
All right, great. Well, thank you for watching the Deal Calendar. I'm Kathleen Flynn, along with Suzanne Stevens. This is a work in progress, so we'd love to get your feedback and hear what deals you'd like to hear us cover. You can write a comment here, or you can send us email at reporters@thedeal.com. Thanks for watching. Check back with us next Friday.